Good evening and welcome to Talk of the Town. I am not Karen Bukes, host and producer of Talk of the Town. I'm delighted to be here to be a guest host. I'm Steve Trifletti and this is show 343 and it is coming to you on June 4th, 2014. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'd like to get right to it and welcome our underwriters. We have several of them. First, our newest underwriter, Kroll Cafe in Manomet. They have fabulous sandwiches, Old Al's. And we welcome Jeff Cohen and One Stop Painting, underwriters with great company and great service. Brewster PC Solutions with Wrestling Brewster. Watch them with Wrestling with Computers right here on PAC TV. Also, the law firm of Trifletti & Costa, located at 124 Long Pond Road. And finally, our last and wonderful underwriter, David and Kevin Gallerani, owners of Cape Auto and Cape Service. They're located on Samoset and Sandwich Streets right here in Plymouth. And I wouldn't want to forget that here in the studio this evening, we also want to thank our technical support and staff. Karen's husband, Ken Bukes, is here. Running the control room and assisting him, Stephen Leiden. And thank you so much. We would not be able to do this without them. Today we have three guests, and we're very pleased. You can see possibly on camera here, the subject matter here that we're going to be talking about has to do with a chair. You're going to hear more about it. But first we're going to go to our guests and we're going to hear a little bit about them. We're going to start with our first guest, Lotte Diomede. Lotte, welcome.
Thank you for having me
Thanks
today.
for being here.
Thank
now,
you.
Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
So I grew up in Denmark and I came to Boston in '94 and I got married in '98, and in 2000 I gave birth to our first child who was born with severe disabilities, and partially that is why we ventured into this venture of donating beach wheelchairs to beaches across Cape Cod and now on South Shore and North Shore. As an organization, we just felt like having a child, when they're little, you can carry them around, but as they grew, bigger kids, bigger issues, and bigger equipment, and I sourced out to make a difference and change that, because everybody should have a chance of happy, healthy memories despite disabilities.
And Lotte, you're joined by Susan Brown. Susan, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've lived in Massachusetts my whole life. I have 4 children, and my oldest daughter is developmentally delayed and slightly physically disabled. So that's kind of how Lotte and I met. When you live in this disabled world, you kind of gravitate toward those who understand what your life situation is. And here we are together with Smile Mass.
Smile Mass, which is your nonprofit organization.
Correct. Our nonprofit organization, SMILE, stands for Small Miracles in Life Exist. And we started by building a playground in Sudbury. And then when we were done with the it was universally designed so everyone can get from the lowest point to the highest point. And then when we were done with the playground, we said we need to do more. And here we are doing more.
Now we're also joined by Kevin Joyce. And Kevin, we'd like to hear a little bit about you. We know you're a town meeting member. We know that you're also chair of the Plymouth Commission on Disabilities. Give us a little bit of your background.
Well, thank you, Steve. And I want to thank Karen and Ken especially for allowing this interview. It's nice to have it, and I thank them very much for that. Steve, as the chairman of the Disabilities Commission here in Plymouth, one of my members, Dion Dupree, came to me and said, Kevin, I've heard about this beach wheelchair that is being provided at no cost to some of the towns on Cape Cod. And I think we should look into that for Long Beach. And I said, let's investigate this. So we've taken it step by step. This was almost 2.5 years ago when we met Lotte and Susan. And as the chair, we've taken this to open meetings and having meetings with the directors of the recreation and the ponds and the beaches and so forth, even the DPW directors having handicapped spots that are on the beaches and so forth. But our concern was someone arriving at Long Beach and needed to put a child in the wheelchair so they could go into the water. And that's where we took this from that first initial stage. into where we are today. As the chairman of the Disabilities Commission, I wanted to provide a service for our disabled here in Plymouth as they were getting the service on Cape Cod. And Lotte and Susan have been great people to work with, and we're getting closer and closer to provide chairs to our beaches here in Plymouth.
Now, for those who may not know about the Plymouth Commission on Disabilities, it is a town committee or commission, and you're appointed by whom?
From the town manager, predominantly, and the selectmen, of course.
And how long do you serve?
It's a 3-year term.
Okay.
I've been on it for over 5 years, and I've been the chairman for nearly 3 years now.
How many people serve on the commission?
5 people are on the commission.
Okay. And do you have any funding?
We have a stipend. I think we have a $300 stipend.
And
so we don't have much money to play with.
So, and that's the funding for the commission?
Yes. It's predominantly for periodicals and to go to attend maybe a meeting or two.
Okay. And so, again, Susan, tell me a little bit about this nonprofit. You said you started with a playground and then you wanted to do more. How did you grow from the playground to doing the chair?
Well, Lottie and I, both having disabled children, we know that when you go on vacation, it comes with a lot of extra stuff. I mean, you can imagine taking a family of 4 or 6 on vacation when the children are small. You have to pack for them. You have to bring, if you want to go for a bike ride, you bring bikes, you bring this. When you have a disabled child, it comes with so much more equipment. It comes with a wheelchair. It comes with not just a regular bike. It comes with a special bike, and you almost need a U-Haul to bring all your equipment with you. So our original plan was to find a property where we could renovate it and make it fully handicapped accessible and have all the equipment you need, so a family with a disabled family member could just go on vacation with the typical amount of stuff and not all the extra stuff, because we would provide it for them. But as you can imagine, raising enough money to purchase a house and to renovate it and to do all this stuff is going to take a long time. So Lottie was at the beach one day and she pulled up, and at Seagull Beach, I guess they had a beach wheelchair. And she said, "This is fantastic. However, it doesn't go in the water." Now you're on the beach and you're looking at the ocean if you're an adult. And, oh, this is great, this is pretty, but I'm still hot. So we started investigating the chairs that were out there, and we found this Moby chair that floats. So it goes from the parking lot across the sand and into the water. So we said, okay, this is something we can do, we can raise the funds for, and we can make an immediate impact. And we'll do this, and then we'll build up to the next step, which would be the house.
So Lotte, when did you start all this? I mean, we're talking about immediate impact. When was the playground done and you came to the beach?
The playground was done we started in 2008 and we opened it in October 2009. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Actually, October 10th, and I only know this because it's my birthday. And that's when we opened it with a big bang and the ribbon cutting, and the mayor from Boston had sent staff out. It was actually a lot more surreal than Susan and I ever anticipated, because initially we just wanted a swing we could put our kids in so everybody could play equally, and we got so much more. I think we got so thrilled and so excited about what the impact we had done. So when I came to the Cape for the summer and I'm locking my 90-pound kid on my hip with all this stuff that comes with going to the beach, and some lifeguard came running, "Can I help you, ma'am? I have a wheelchair." I thought, heaven had come down. And despite the wheelchair was in really poor condition, I tied towels around it, and I was like, it doesn't matter, his wheels will make it work. And when I sat on the beach, I was like, wow, if we could help everybody doing this. Because I had a home on the Cape, and I didn't even know these things were on the beaches. So I said, what if we tell people we provide them and put them on the beaches? And I think Susan and I knew, for selfish reason, it would make an impact because it would help us. We also knew we would help some people, and we would do the best we could to reach out. But the response we got from the first donation of beach wheelchairs were overwhelming, and I rarely get to tears. And I tell you, some of the letters we got back from people were astonishing. And I think, out of the gate, our first notion was to help families who were raising children, just because that's where we were coming from. But we realized quickly that these chairs were so much more. They weren't just for children, they were for adults. Maybe they were for Nana, who hasn't been on the beach with her family for years. Maybe somebody's deciding to have a beach wedding, but some of the family members can't get there without a beach wheelchair. Maybe this is for some of the patrons that got hurt in the Boston bombing last year, who now forever their lives have changed, but by us providing beach wheelchairs can still go to the beach with their families. Maybe it's our veterans coming home, and at least but not last, you know, we have families who have family members who have horrible diagnosis, who may only have 3 months left or whatever, and one of the last wishes they have is going to the beach, and we can now make that possible. And I think when we got those letters back from those families saying, you know, we got to enjoy the large beach stay with our sister, with our mother, and a week later she passed away, I mean, that's astonishing. So if nothing else, like I tell my kids, it don't matter what you have in the bank when you walk away, it's the legacy you put behind you. And I think these beach wheelchairs, which for us is just a scratch of the surface, has been so much more. And I think the impact has been so much greater. So when people like Kevin from Plymouth called us, or Duxbury, or letters were written to us from the North Shore going, my beach has more people, I need this. I think our impact was, oh, yes, you do need it. And people would call us and say, do you have a list? And Susan and I looked at each other going, we don't have a list. But we really realized, okay, we needed a new plan. And we needed a bigger marketing strategy concerning marketing. Because obviously, as an organization or a nonprofit, our success is based solely on our ability to raise money, whether it's through grants or individual donations. So we said, well, you know, we live in a fantastic town in Sudbury, but we also knew we couldn't turn around to Sudbury and ask them to provide beach wheelchairs across the states of Massachusetts. So we slowly but surely are reaching into different towns and saying, hey, we're here, but we will help your backyard. And I think as an organization, my primary for our organization is to do the marketing and kind of look at the bigger picture. How do we raise enough funds so everybody can be helped? Because there's no doubt that Susan and I will give up bags to anybody who needs it. But how do we do this right? And so we have created different programs where businesses in different towns, if they like what we do and they want to support this, can tap into it and still get a lot of promotions and visibility, etc. And still know they help a case, you know, at their beaches. And one thing that we said to a lot of the beaches and businesses is, look, we will place these on your beaches, but this is how it's going to benefit you. About 20% of our population across Massachusetts have one or more disabilities. About 12.2% of those people have severe disabilities. Those families, once they start weighing much more than 90 pounds, start traveling a lot less because life becomes hard. And you begin to create a life at home because it's just simple. And we said, well, you know, we don't necessarily need simple, we just need to create the environment. So that's what we're trying to do. And for those businesses out there that are looking to help a good cause, by helping a cause like Smile Mass, they now are bringing business to their establishment. Because what happens is these families will venture out. When they come to your town to go to your beach or go and wine and dine, they need somewhere to sleep, they need somewhere to eat, they need, you know, souvenir. And that's where our towns come in. So together we can all create a better tomorrow, because, you know, as much as I like to stay young for the rest of my life, unfortunately, you know, we're all going to head that way. And then it would be nice that that paved way has already been paved, so we can continue being part of the community. And
you make a lot of good points, but I think one that struck me was how many people are affected. My daughter is a moderate special needs teacher here in Plymouth, and it isn't just her students.
No.
It's all the other students, because sometimes they're pulled in to class, sometimes pulled out of class, all the teachers, all the staff, all the parents, all the friends. There are so many people that are affected by, you know, someone with special needs. Exactly. And it touches so many. And Susan, she's talked about, you know, reaching out beyond. So right away, for people who are watching, who may be thinking, how do I get more information? How do I contact you? What would be some contact information you would provide?
Well, our website is smilemass.org. And our Lottie's phone number is mostly on there, but her email is Lotte, L-O-T-T-E, @smilemass.org. I'm Susan at smilemass.org. But I would say first go to the website because we have a lot of good information on there, and you can see the beaches that have the wheelchairs, the beaches that on the Cape that are waiting for the wheelchairs. We need to add, the other towns that we're working on too.
So you've done 40 beach chairs. Where are they?
They're all the way from Bourne to Provincetown. I can't tell you the names off the top of my head, but they're in 34 beaches in 15 towns from Bourne to Provincetown.
So, Kevin, Plymouth has some beaches.
We do, don't we?
We do. So,
we have
what would you like to do in Plymouth?
Well, what I'd like to at least start initially, as you know, Steve, and you've brought it up before, we have 365 ponds in this town. We can't meet them all, but not all of them have beaches either. Long Beach was my main concern initially, but I'd love to, mainly because these beach chairs have to be monitored. They have to be stored, taken out of storage for someone who may need it that day, be available for people who want to use a beach wheelchair. So they have to have some kind of storage shed. Long Beach has that facility. Morton Park has that type of facility. In our newest beach area is Hedges Pond, which has a facility also to be able to store this and be able to take it out during the day and restore it at night. So that's my goal was initially to try to get those 3 areas covered with a beach wheelchair, a chair that will go into the water and please the disabled in the small way that we can here in Plymouth.
Lotte, how did you come up with the criteria for what would be an appropriate beach setting?
Well, so if you don't know about us as a family, I always say we are very unique. We are just like any other family, but I have 2 children. I have an 11-year-old who is super busy with any sport she can imagine and wrap her head around. My husband travels all the time, and my oldest son, who's now 13, is severely disabled. So in my household, it's not an option not to go to soccer. And I swore many years ago when he was first born, I said, I don't care. Where he goes, I go. And if we go as a family, he should be able to come. So yes, over the years, we've chosen not to go to certain places because it's physically impossible. But I think when we are looking at the bigger picture for the criteria, we were saying, well, I need a parking spot. So I don't have to walk 3 miles before I even hit, because it's hard enough. And when it becomes 100 degrees and you're locking somebody in and out, you're already sweating. So minimize all that. So we said parking, and then for the beach wheelchairs, to make them readily available, we've said that the criteria is you must store them at the beach, preferably inside so nobody walks away with them, because it's an expensive piece of equipment.
How much are they?
They run us about $2,500 a piece. And they're really only good if you really need them. They are super fun to ride in. My kids love when we spin back and forth in them, and they want to sit in them all day. But we all know that unfortunately, if we just left them out there for people to take and use whenever they wanted to, they probably wouldn't stay much for very long. So that's why we want the storage. And we would like lifeguards, because a lot of these families who are traveling with disabled members are often medically more critical, so chances that something happens are higher. Unfortunately, it's just a part of the game. So I know for myself, when I travel with my family, we typically choose a beach with lifeguards, because if we are running into a seizure or some other medical things that could happen, not that they could be able to handle everything, but there's someone there that can help you dial 911 or help you with other things. So we said at least a lifeguard or a parking guard that can take the chair in and out. So that's why we're asking for personnel. Other than that, I think most families are thrilled to know that they can just go to the beach, they can push the chair themselves, and they can just go and meet their friends without bringing the nurse and the respite person and 20 other people to help them. They can just manage because they have the equipment.
Susan, I think you probably underestimate your personal experience has such a great impact, and you have such a great understanding of what the needs are of the population, because for those of us that don't live every day, we don't think about things like you got to have that spot right near the chair, or else it doesn't make sense. So, you know, she gave us a little snapshot of her personal situation. What about yours? What does it look like?
Well, my daughter is not nearly as involved as Lottie's son. She actually can walk. She wears braces from her knees down to her feet. But, you know, the beach is tough. Right. The sand moves under your feet. So even though she doesn't need a wheelchair in her everyday life, she could use one at the beach. And, you know, if she's at a beach that has waves, you know, her balance isn't great. So you know, this would help her, whereas, you know, you might look at her and say, oh, she doesn't need a wheelchair, and you're right, on the land, she doesn't. But when you're on a beach that's got nice soft sand that's moving, and you're in the water with the tides, she absolutely does. And, you know, that's like the same thing like Lottie's mentioned for the elderly. You know, these are people that are getting around everyday life, but the beach is just a different, it's just a different environment that you need the extra help, and you don't think of that until you have someone in your family that needs it, or you have somebody very close to you who needs it.
So Kevin, we have a population here in Plymouth, and you serve that population, your commission does. Do we have people that, plenty of people that have the needs?
Oh, sure. With 60,000 people, Steve, that live in Plymouth, and growing, as we all know. The population of the disabled here is growing also, and we see it every day. The commission gets pulled in several different directions. School buses that are not accessible, or schools or businesses constantly having to adjust to the disability ADA requirements by the federal government. And we get calls on a weekly and monthly basis that address or need some help with a disability or disabled person that can't get to a place or can't get into a business or whatever it might be. And that's what we try to do, is provide a service for them. It's very interesting. I'm a disabled veteran from the Marine Corps, and it's why I got into this whole thing, was to try to help my fellow disabled veterans and disabled in town. I've enjoyed this challenge, and our mission as a commission is to try to help the disabled as best we can in the town of Plymouth. We have a large population here. The wheelchairs were just one facet of, wow, couldn't this be nice to be able to, you know, what I really went, Steve, was I went down to Long Beach, and we actually have a wheelchair down there, which is stored behind the restaurant down there, under lock and key. So when you drove in, you would say to the parking guard, where is there a wheelchair provided? Go to the restaurant, they'll give you a key, you go in and get a lot of complication to the whole thing. So I said, we got to be able to do better than that. And then, as Susan mentioned, you couldn't take it into the water. All you could do is take a person from your car and to put them closer to the beach. The sand was a problem. So when I found this, or when actually Dion, one of our commissioners, found this beach wheelchair, I said, this is for us. This is for Plymouth. This is something that this commission needs to look into and see if we can establish a wheelchair or two on our beaches in town. And this is where we're at with Lottie and Susan, and they've been very helpful, very cooperative. I can't believe how many wheelchairs they've provided at no cost to the cities and towns of southern Massachusetts and the Cape. And Plymouth wants to take advantage of this situation as soon as possible.
And when do you have your meetings?
Our meetings for the Commission on Disability are held the third Thursday of every month, and at 6 o'clock, and we hold them typically at the town library.
And so your meeting in June is June 19th?
June 19th is our next meeting, yes.
And anyone can attend?
It's open to the public. Anybody is available, and it's especially open to the disabled. We have, obviously, elevators and accessible chairs and so forth in this room.
And you welcome any feedback that they would give you on this or any other subject?
I would love it. Through Dinah O'Brien, who is our liaison through the town, Dinah, who is really my right-hand person on the commission. Dinah is the contact through the town itself. And if you want to go on the town's website, plymouth.ma I think it's .us, isn't it? .gov. I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you. Plymouth.ma.gov. And on that website, there lists the Commission on Disabilities, and you can actually send an email, phone numbers, contact information right on that website.
So, Susan, for people that don't use email, how would they contact you?
They could call either Lottie or myself. Lottie's phone number is 617-967-7755, and my cell phone is 978-460-7410.
And how about a mailing address for snail mail?
Snail mail, Smile Mass at 66 Dudley Road in Sudbury, Massachusetts, 01776.
And Lotte, so we have the chair here with us, the Moby chair. So start by describing the chair, the components of the chair.
So the components of the chair was really simple, and one of the things I love with it, because my son is so disabled as he is, he's super happy, he's with it, he understands what's around him, but he's just so inhibited in his movement, etc. So what I wanted was a chair that could lie all the way down, that could sit in different positions, because none of us in real life ever sit in the same chair the same way for even an hour. So when you sit in a wheelchair for the same place, you need to kind of maneuver around. So this chair gave us that. So a couple of things I loved with it was medically, when you are looking at people with disabilities, they often are more critical. So medical things can happen really quick. So if that was the situation, you can quickly open up the two armrests. They're literally with a screw, and flip the chair all the way back, so now you're laying flat. So if you're talking seizures, you're talking diapers, you're talking other medical things, you can actually take care of it within the beach wheelchair. So for me, that's a big issue, because I think that's a safety issue. So if you have a man or woman in there, 250 pounds, you're not transporting them out to take care of them. So even for you know, the EMTs or whoever came, they could actually do some of the stuff here. So that's one thing.
The chair
and
up
they
and down.
Literally can just maneuver the chair up and down. The second
As I'm moving the chair, go ahead.
The second opponent I obviously love is that you can take your family member, your loved one, all the way to the water. Now it kind of took it to the next step. We didn't just go over the pavement and over the sand. We're actually moving right into the water. And it's kind of funny when we do it on the beach, because people are all going, oh, oh, and we get like the standing ovation. And I really think it's kind of funny. And people go, it really floats. And I always say, I hope so, because, you know, if it does at this point, we're in the water. But I think that's what I love. And then secondly, I think as a family, we decided in my household that we were going to invest one of these, because we do have a home on the Cape. So we wanted to just be able to take it with us. And I always say to my friends, I'll be at the beach, I'll meet you, I'll be fully decked out so we can go to dinner afterwards. And the great thing about this chair is it folds all the way flat. So most moms with kids or with disabled members own a minivan. It seems to be like the Dreammobile, and I can tell you I didn't grow up driving a Dreammobile quite like this. But the neat thing is I can put in the beach like the wheelchair, and then I can fold up the chair. It has 5 opponents. All 3 wheels come off and the arms, and it collapses flat, and the wheelchair literally goes in the flat at the end, and then you just stack everything in. So when I go to the beach, I come really decked out. It's really fancy. I bring out my beach wheelchair, and then on the way home, I push it back in, and I can take the wheelchair out, and we can now go for dinner on the way home. So the privilege is also that it's quick to store. It doesn't need a ton of space. So even for the towns where we do donate it, even if they kind of shut down the beaches and they say we don't want to keep it in the cold storage over winter because it's not really good for the wheels, most of the towns take them with them back where they get warm storage, and it's quick to store, and they love that. So for us, that's what we love. I think there's a lot of safety components with it. It does come with straps. You can choose to use them or not use them, but it does have a belt. The majority of the chairs that you see currently on the beaches right now don't have a belt, don't have a lap belt, don't have nothing. And if you truly are handicapped, unfortunately you need those opponents to just sit safe. And there's a ton of surf chairs out there where you sit straight up and down. But even us, we wouldn't enjoy sitting straight up and down. So that's what I love about this chair, and I think that's what makes the difference of it. And, you know, we've had lots of ideas that we should have cup holders, we should have nets, we should have martini bars on it, you know, you name it. And they don't come with all that, but it comes with the bells and whistles that make a family able to go to the beach for the day without everybody's help. And I think that's freedom.
So you have your own chair.
I do, yes.
And how long have you had the chair?
3 years now?
And you've used it?
Yes.
And how has that changed your beach experience with your son?
Well, I think it changes us as a family. It gives us freedom. I don't have to ask for help. And when my husband travels, I don't have to juggle and decide whether or not we do something because I have the equipment that I need. So
Independence.
Independence. So it gives me the opportunity to do what you perceive normal in your household. It's hot today, it's 90 degrees and it's humid and let's go to the beach. I now have that opportunity to do so. I don't have to think about it. It's just, sure, we'll go to the beach. We just pack just like everybody else, except we bring the beach wheelchair with us. So it gives you independence. It gives you the right to do what's considered normal. And it gives me the opportunity as a mother to take my kids to the beach, and one day when I'm old and gray and they bring their grandkids, say, remember when we were playing in the sand? And it gives me the opportunity to just do whatever we call is normal, but just to fit in despite disability. And I think that's where Susan and I really want to try and make an impact, saying, you know, disability is not being sick, and we all belong. And, you know, the medical world is so incredible. We all survive, which is fantastic. But as a society, we are not quite caught up to what's needed for accessibility, whether it's curved carts, it's beach wheelchairs, it's other opponents. And our cities and towns simply can't afford to keep up. And this is why organizations like ours begin to step in and say, well, we can help at least make you know, a buffer between that, and you know, and we hope that the towns benefit so greatly that they decide to put this in as a line item. So in 5 to 7 years, when the chairs need to be replaced, they hopefully have a small line item so they can replace them. So we don't have to come back in 7 years with another wave, because hopefully in 7 years we're doing more to continue this trend.
So Susan, we heard how her son benefited. Your daughters use the chair?
She does.
She does.
I don't own one. I don't go to the beach often enough to own one, so I go to a beach that has one.
And what's been your experience with your daughter?
You know, my experience with it, well, it's more than just my daughter. It's my whole family. You know, I have 3 typically healthy children. And I think Lottie alluded to before, if Kristen can't go to the beach, nobody's going to the beach, because we're not leaving her at home.
Right.
So it just gave us the freedom to be able to do what all their friends do. So now we can go to the beach and we can go in the water. And, you know, my kids are all fairly close in age. So when they were little, it was really hard to go to the beach because Kristen needed 100% of my attention. And now I have these 3 other little ones that really needed to be watched carefully at the beach too. So, you know, if I had had this chair 10 years ago, it would have helped me so much more because then I could have had her in a safe place and paid. You know, I could have done it myself instead of needing somebody with me because I just had so many that were so little.
And have you had the opportunity to observe anyone else use this chair other than your own family?
I have not observed anyone else using it because, as I said, I'm not at the beach as often as Lottie, but, you know, the letters we get are unbelievable. They're just so heartfelt and touching, and, you know, they bring tears to your eyes because you're helping these families do something they didn't think they were going to be able to do again.
Kevin.
Steve, what I like is, what I saw, by the way, was recently, as a town meeting member, what came to light about a year ago was White Horse Beach. In White Horse Beach, the town has decided to take a piece of land down there and build a bathroom, a bath facility, which they've never had. And part of that bath facility was, without the bath facility, our lifeguards down on that beach had to fend for themselves. They had to actually use local homes to change in, to store some of their equipment, their boogie boards and things that they use as lifeguards. So it came to my mind, I said, you know what? Once they build this bathroom, this bathhouse, and we can store a chair like this inside, and it'll be across the street of Taylor Ave. I said, you know, when they want to move from the bathhouse, the lifeguards, they can put their boards, their equipment, everything on this wheelchair, move across the street, onto the sand, and up onto the area where this will be visible, and their equipment now will be available for their use from their lifeguard stations. That's a great advantage, I think, that we'd be able to multi-purpose this chair, not only at White Horse Beach, but all the beaches that we hopefully will get a chair for. As Lottie said, and I like what she had to say, she's going to do her best to get wheelchairs for the town of Plymouth. I'm hoping to get 3 wheelchairs as soon as possible, hopefully by this season. And if we can provide wheelchairs for the next 5 or 6 years, we can put a line item on town meetings floor.
Could, sure.
So that we can raise funds to show people that these chairs are valuable and important for the disabled.
And it sounds like also as proposals come before the town, we recently funded some money for Nelson Park or for Stevens Field, that it's important really for your commission to interface with these proposals or proposers and explain the need and maybe adjust the plans so that they can accommodate and receive a chair like this.
Steve, how happy must somebody be who drives onto Long Beach, whether they're a resident or a non-resident? Sure. We know that Long Beach has a lot of activity. It's a big beach. And to be able to see someone get a wheelchair out onto the beach and then into the water, the visibility is tremendous, and town meeting members will make note of this. I'm sure they will.
Latte, so what have you done to raise money?
So, as an organization, we wanted to do something. I wanted to do something that was a little bit out of the box. Like I said before, my prime thing is to do the marketing for Smile Mass. So we have for a couple of years done what we say a mimic of the Amazing Race, like on the TV show, and we literally had people running all over the North End, in and out stores, eating yucky stuff and standing on their heads, and like it was really crazy stuff. They actually didn't do yucky stuff. They ate cookies and brownies and cannolis, and they even delivered them to private residents. We had private residents receive cookies and gave them the next clue, and we really enjoyed doing that, and it was a ton of fun. But I'm also a realist, and I said, you know, we spent so much time creating this event, and we raised a lot of money on it, but I said, what event can we do where I can make money-making decisions every day and raise money where we don't have to create a whole event? So recently on May 9th and 10th, I talked Susan into a new adventure, and we did a 200-mile road race relay with 2 other teams. So together there was 36 people, and we were in minivans, and we ran for like 30 hours. And it's probably one of the craziest things I've ever done. But there's something revealing about knowing that the finish line, what we did, the sweat, the tears, the no sleep, what we did was so much bigger than the finish line, because running for a nonprofit really means that you're making a change for so many people out there that could benefit from this. And so we chose to do the Regna Relay Race, which starts in Hall, Mass to Provincetown, because currently that's where we're placing the majority of our money and our funds. So we wanted to honor all those sponsors who had sponsored us for a long time. So all our minivans had this beach wheelchair on top, so needless to say, we stood out. We do a 5K in Sudbury. I know we will be planning a 5K on Cape Cod for next delivery of beach wheelchairs, which date to be determined. We don't have an exact date yet. We're still working on that. And, you know, and I think road races are a great success. It's a fun thing. People can come in and out. It's a short time commitment for families, and everybody can participate. And typically one of the things that we do for our road races is we provide strollers, and we invite people who otherwise couldn't run. And our logo is always, we run for all those who can't. and we push wheelchairs through actually strollers, jogging strollers. The last roadways we had in November last year, we had 14 kids showing up in wheelchairs that were all put in strollers, and we called them the captains, and we had the angels finish with them. And these kids were sitting, you know, we send them out 5 minutes before all the runners. We put name on their strollers, so all the runners will come by and say their names, and the kids will be waving. And it's just a fun event, and it's exciting. So typically that's how we kind of do things. Ever so often we may do a black tie event, but it's really not what we're good at. We're good at going out there, shaking it up, and getting families involved, for better or for worse, and walking away with a shirt saying, I run for those who can't. And that's really what we're all about. So maybe next year we walk for those who can't, maybe, but it will really be like empowering the young kids. And I see it in my school district with my daughter. She always gets her shirts, and she wore hers yesterday, and she goes, can I wear your shirt, Mom, from this long run? I said, you can. And she goes, Mom, everybody wants a shirt like that. And I said, we'll sign you up for a team next year. So, you know, because it's empowering having the younger generation going into school, showing this off, because it makes life a little bit easier, and it doesn't become so hard. And I think for my daughter, a lot of her friends know she has a brother named Nicholas, and he's in a wheelchair, and sometimes they ask a lot of questions, and sometimes they may be a little bit out of the box, but we have always had this motto in my household: we just answer them, and it's his wheels are his legs, and you know, he drools because he doesn't talk. And these kids, when it's time to dress up and go out and go trick-or-treating, they all want something to do with this wheelchair, because I tell you, they don't get one piece of candy, they get a whole handful, and they got that. So, you know, there is benefits and everything. It's just the way how you turn the key, you know. So in our household, we have decided to take a step forward and say, we look at the bigger things. And so some things we can't do, but it's okay. But there's a lot of other things we can do, and we can do them really well.
Those races, I know, have a lot of appeal. My daughter, the special needs teacher, runs a lot of 5Ks and half marathons.
Yeah.
And I know that some of the local ones, she's actually had her fellow teachers run with her. So it seems to me that along with the children and the parents and the family, you could probably tap into a lot of different groups in order to help support this. Susan, how much have you raised?
The big race that we just did in May, we raised over $25,000, and donations are still coming in. So I think we'll top the $30,000 mark just with that race.
And then all the grants we
And
got
then,
prior to it.
right, and this year we've been lucky enough to get, so far we're at $32,000 with grants, and we have others still out there that we're waiting for responses on, and we're very hopeful. You know, the thing about grants is once you get the first one, and then everybody wants to know who else has supported you. So once you have that first name to put down, they seem to roll in a little bit easier. So it's been a successful year so far.
Kevin, the Plymouth Commission on Disabilities, you selected these 3 locations. You talked about Whitehorse. Do you foresee anything else in the future in terms of the town of Plymouth? You're going to focus on these locations?
As we know, and it's been mentioned that Stevens Field is under renovation. Certainly would be able to have a wheelchair there. The northern beaches up there in Quidditch Park area, and of course some of the bigger pond beaches that we have could utilize this type of chair. If I may take a moment, I just wanted to mention my committee members.
Yes.
I think they do great work. They don't ask for anything, as we all do. But I'd just like to mention my vice chair is Prudence. And Prudence Hartshorn is in braces. Wonderful woman. She's my vice chair and has been the vice chair for a 3 years now. And she does all my mailing for me and all my reading of the minutes and so forth. So I just think she's wonderful. Dion Dupree, who was the person who really brought this subject to fruition, is great to have on the commission. We have a newer member is Charlie Shinner, who's wheelchair bound, who contributes tremendous to the commission as far as his knowledge of the requirements, the ADA requirements, and so forth and so on. He's great to have around. And as I mentioned already, is Diana O'Brien, I'm sorry. Diana O'Brien is my liaison with the town, and she really puts everything together each month for us. I couldn't work without them. They do a wonderful job, and to be able to do something like this for the town, I am so pleased and so happy that I've met these two people. Once we do get chairs, I'll love them even more, okay? And I'm sure the town will take advantage of it.
So Latte, in your organization, you and Susan are co-founders.
That's correct.
And president and vice president, respectively. Do you have anybody else in the organization?
So we have a lot of volunteers. We are actually like a 2-person organization, more or less. We do have a couple of things. We have a lady that writes a newsletter for us once a month. So if you want to just stay current with where we are, what we're doing, what's the new best thing, what is our fundraising efforts at, you can go and sign up at www.smilemass.org and just be part of the newsletter. It comes out once a month, and I wish I was that good, but we actually have somebody doing this for us.
It's a great newsletter.
She does a great job putting it together. We give her little tidbits and bullet points, love bullet points, and somebody else puts it together. We have somebody who does our Facebook. Sometimes we do it, but most of the times we have a third party doing that. But other than that, it's pretty much Susan and I as the 2 employees. So we do from the emptying the trash cans to going out speaking at these opportunities and get dressed up and we're not in our sweats, and to go out with the volunteers. And we do have a flow of volunteers depending on what we are up to, how many volunteers we have. And we have some of the volunteers that we can call and we know they are really strong volunteers. And then we have a bunch of high school kids who all need volunteer hours. And we use them for road races, and we'll put yellow vests on them, and they stand as markers along the route. So that's kind of how we are as an organization, and every penny that we raise so far is going directly back into the organization. Nobody's paid in our organizations. We actually have a lady that does our website, who created the website, who puts it all together and changes it, and she's not paid either, and she's been working with us for over 4 years. So sometimes it doesn't happen right out of the gate, but beggars can't be choosers, so we're very privileged for what we have.
And is there a location where you do this organization? Are you doing it out of your houses?
No, so we started on our dining room table, and we really quickly realized that this wasn't very convenient because 4 o'clock would come around and we'd have to shift it all, so we had time for dinner. So we were super privileged that I have some friends in town who owns an office building, and they have an office in there, and they gave us a corner. So we have a little corner stacked to the rims with all our bells and whistles and flyers and all the stuff that we use throughout our race. And that's kind of where we work. And I think once we had the office, we became really efficient because now we could actually work.
So Susan, do you have any kind of wish list for the organization?
We can always use more volunteers if you're good at something, because we just don't always have enough hours in the day. There's just 2 of us, and there's so much that needs to be done. Just give us ideas of what you need, or if you're a disabled person, what types of things you'd like to see on vacation, because if you have a different disability than what our children have, or, you're an adult and we're not at that level yet, let us know so that we can plan, and if you have a special talent that you think could help us out, this woman that writes our newsletter is fantastic. We are really not so good at the social media. So if we had somebody that would like to do that stuff more for us, and just donations. We always need donations.
Latte, anything out of the wishes you can think of?
So I think one of my big wish lists is, and I know it's a really far cry, I would love to go into the school districts and talk about what does it mean to be disabled, because I think having children growing up and not really understanding, they just know you're in a wheelchair, you're disabled, but there's so many kids and adults with disabilities that we don't even realize. And I think for my son, it's evident that, we come everywhere and I get that poor you look and I just kind of brush it off. But we have a lot of kids and adults in our society where we visually can't see it, but the wrong light, the wrong sound, the smell, somebody talking to you in the wrong way, whatever, could set them off in a way where you as a person could say, oh my God, control your child, or why is the child like this, or, you know, tell them to slow down, or whatever it is. And the bottom line is it's really neurological. And I really would love, like years and years ago when my son first started Perkins School for the Blind, I went to a training, and when we walked in, the first thing they did was they took our coats and our jackets and they said, there's your copy, and they blindfolded us. And for 4 hours we were blindfolded just to see what it was like. And we played a ball game where we had to kind of listen for the bell to figure out where we were catching the ball, and we stacked each other from highest to lowest and stuff, and it was mind-boggling. And through lunch they were saying, okay, you go out the building, so we had a piece of paper and you could feel where you were supposed to go, and we were all walking into walls, and it was a mess, and we were all eating, and we were all covered in food because none of us knew how to do this. And you know, you put your fingers in the food because you don't know how to do this. And I think it was kind of mind-boggling. And they did this because we were all walking in with our infants who had low eyesight or were totally blind, because they wanted us to understand this is what our child is going to do. Like, and this is why it's so important that you label everything, that you put everything, that you talk through, you walk. So in my house, you know, I go, Nicholas, I'm turning on the faucet of water. I'm just going to the bathroom. I'm opening the refrigerator. All the things that I take for granted. When people come into my house and they just take a glass of water at the refrigerator and push the button, if they don't tell him that they're pushing the button, he cries because he doesn't know where that sound came from. So he gets really upset and he gets confused. So I really would love to kind of put some kind of a school program together and be able to talk to the kids about what does it mean to be disabled, because we talk about bullying, we talk about all these things, and these things are created, like bullying becomes of the weaker link oftentimes, unfortunately, and it really happens, the child that often bullies is really the one who is oftentimes just not really very secure, and it's easier to pick on the weaker link. So be able to do something like that, but it's so big and it's so massive, but to be able to go in and teach them so they can take it with them, because I really think we need to teach our children to be more acceptant for the differences there are in the world, because then it becomes a nicer world. It would be easy just to say, I wish we could just all be nice to each other and it would be easy. But life just doesn't work like that. So that's really a big wish of mine, that somebody could run with that. We could put a program together and somebody could run with that. I would love that. So
much you could do. Kevin, how about your commission?
Well, the commission, glad you asked, Steve. The commission is always involved in something, as you all know, probably have seen. As intersections change in town, in other towns, we now have the nubs going across where the walkways are. It's an ADA requirement, and it's a nice safety issue. It's been brought to our attention as the commission, and under my reign, the talking lights. I don't know if you know what those are. I grew up in Boston and knew of the Perkins School of the Blind. When you cross the street, the bells would ring. They've got away from bells now, and they call them these little talking lights, or chirps, so that the blind people can tell the light is now in their favor and they can cross the street. We're going to institute 1 or 2 of these as intersections get changed in town. 2020's coming. We're prettying up the town in different areas, and that's one of the locations, one of the items that is on our list to do, is talking lights, crosswalks that are noticeable, and you can feel them. We're constantly doing something with the commission, and I welcome anybody to reach out to us. Again, we're on the town's website, and our minutes are posted there. Our agendas are posted there. So they're welcome to give us a call anytime.
Susan, we're winding up our show. People who have just tuned in partway through, we're talking about this Moby chair. What's your 60-second elevator talk?
My 67 elevator talk. Smile Mass stands for Small Miracles in Life Exist. We are trying to make recreation more accessible, and we are placing these, our current project is to place these beach wheelchairs so that everyone can enjoy a day at the beach despite disability.
Latte, what's your little 60-second talk?
60-second talk.
Get it all out to the
Beach
people.
wheelchairs. If you just joined us, I would say Smile Miracles, Smile Mass stands for Small Miracles in Life exist, and we are really helping families who are raising children and adults. Anybody with mobility issues enjoy happy, healthy memories. What we have today, we may not have tomorrow. So we just want to live every day the best that we can despite disability.
Latte, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you for
On behalf
having
of
us.
Smile Mass, you're the president and co-founder. Susan Brown, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here. Vice president and co-founder. Kevin, always wonderful to have you on camera with us.
Thanks, Steve.
Town meeting member,
Yes.
chair of the Commission for Plymouth Disabilities. And this completes this particular show, Talk of the Town. This was show number 343, coming to you again. Thanks to Karen Bukes, the host and producer, for creating this show and allowing me to guest host this evening. Thanks again to Ken Bukes in the control room, to Steve Lyden, who's here. And as Karen says each and every week, see you in 7. And remember our underwriters and try to patronize them. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. This is Talk of the Town. Thank you.